In a quiet suburb of Markham, Ontario, Jennifer Pan was seen by neighbors as the perfect daughter. The Canadian-born child of hard-working Vietnamese immigrants, she grew up in a household where discipline, academic excellence, and obedience were non-negotiable. But behind the doors of the Pan household, pressure brewed like a ticking time bomb. Jennifer wasn't living the life everyone thought she was. And on the night of November 8th, 2010, she shocked the nation with a crime so cold, so calculated, that it would redefine the meaning of betrayal. This is the disturbing true crime story of Jennifer Pan, the daughter who plotted to have her parents murdered. Chapter 1: The Pan Family and the Pressure to Succeed. Jennifer Pan was born in 1986 to Bich Ha and Han Pan, immigrants from Vietnam who had fled the hardships of war to start a new life in Canada. Han worked as a tool and die maker at auto parts manufacturer Magna International, while Bich worked in manufacturing as well. Both parents were strict believers in education as the only path to success. They closely monitored Jennifer's academics, social life, and even leisure time. From piano lessons to figure skating and honor roll demands, Jennifer's childhood was tightly controlled. To the outside world, this tiger parenting yielded results. Jennifer was a model student and a well-behaved daughter. But the truth was far more complicated and far more dangerous. Chapter 2: Lies begin to take root. As the years passed, Jennifer began to realize something troubling. No matter how hard she tried, it was never enough. Her parents demanded that she excel at everything, and though she did, their expectations only grew. The stress became unbearable. She began to lie to them. At first, small lies. She forged report cards to cover up a disappointing grade or pretended to be happy with her academic achievements, when in fact, she was struggling. The lies compounded, growing larger as she tried to cover up the cracks in her seemingly perfect life. Jennifer would tell her parents that she had been accepted into the University of Toronto's prestigious pharmacology program, when in reality, she hadn't even graduated high school. The facade was beginning to crumble, but Jennifer believed she had no choice. She couldn't let her parents see her failures. They would be devastated, and she feared that might be the end of her. Jennifer wasn't just lying to her parents, she was lying to herself too. She had convinced herself that this was the only way to live, a life built on deceit and carefully crafted illusions. She pretended to be someone she wasn't, and the pressure continued to build. What would happen if the truth came out? The thought was too much to bear. Chapter 3: A secret relationship her parents despised. While Jennifer struggled to maintain her academic facade, she secretly began a relationship with Daniel Wang. Daniel was the complete opposite of what her parents wanted for her. He was rebellious, had a troubled past, and was exactly the kind of person Jennifer's parents disapproved of. The more her parents forbade her from seeing him, the more determined Jennifer became to keep the relationship a secret. Daniel, too, seemed to fuel Jennifer's desire to rebel against her parents. Their connection became an escape, a way for Jennifer to feel loved and accepted for who she truly was. But as the relationship deepened, so did Jennifer's fear of her parents finding out. She tried to hide it, but she was living a double life. One where she was the perfect daughter, and another where she was secretly in love with someone her parents could never approve of. The guilt she felt became unbearable, and she started to question her place in the world. As her secret relationship grew, Jennifer's lies piled higher. Every interaction with Daniel had to be kept under wraps, and every moment of joy she found with him was shadowed by the constant fear of discovery. But as much as she tried to hide it, her parents began to suspect something was off. They were beginning to notice her late-night phone calls, her sudden disappearances, and her increasingly distant attitude. The tension was building, and Jennifer was at a crossroads. Could she continue living a life of lies, or would everything she had worked so hard to protect come crashing down? Chapter 4: Plotting a Murder with Chilling Calm. In the dark recesses of her mind, Jennifer began to entertain a horrific thought. What if she could be free of her parents' control forever? What if, by eliminating them, she could inherit their wealth, escape the suffocating expectations, and live the life she had always dreamed of with Daniel? The thought gnawed at her, and what began as a fleeting idea soon turned into a chilling plan. Jennifer didn't just want to get away from her parents, she wanted to be rid of them. She began researching how to stage a break-in, looking for ways to make her plan look like a robbery gone wrong. She enlisted Daniel, who was eager to help, and together they recruited others to carry out the murder. Jennifer even went so far as to gather information about their house's security system and identify the best time for the attack. She was meticulous, calculating every detail, carefully covering up every loose end. The lies she had told to get this far were nothing compared to the enormity of the lie she was about to tell. Jennifer wasn't just a participant in this crime. She was the mastermind. She was willing to go to any lengths to make her twisted vision a reality. What pushed her to such an extreme? Was it the immense pressure of her parents' expectations? Was it her desire to live freely? Or was it the culmination of years of feeling trapped in a life she could no longer control? Whatever the reasons, Jennifer was no longer the young girl who had once feared disappointing her parents. She had become someone entirely different, someone capable of cold-blooded murder. Chapter 5. VIP access granted. The night of the attack. November 8th, 2010 was the night Jennifer's world would collapse. She convinced her parents to stay home that evening, under the guise of a family night. Her brother Felix wasn't around, which Jennifer believed would ensure no one could interfere with the plan. She sent a coded message to her accomplices. VIP access granted. This was it. The time had come. At approximately 10 p.m., the hired assailants, masked and armed, entered the house, just as Jennifer had planned. The attack was swift and brutal. Her father, Han, was shot in the face, killing him instantly. Jennifer stood by, feigning terror, unable to do anything but watch as her plan unfolded. Her mother, Bitch, was shot multiple times, but somehow survived. As the attackers fled, Jennifer called 911, claiming to be a victim of a home invasion. But despite her attempts to portray herself as an innocent bystander, the evidence told a different story. Jennifer's calm demeanor and lack of urgency in the 911 call raised red flags. Her story about being tied up and unable to stop the attackers didn't add up. There were no signs of forced entry, and the house had been left undisturbed except for the violence that had taken place. Something was wrong, and the investigators soon began to suspect that Jennifer was not just a victim, but a perpetrator. Chapter 6. Investigators unravel the web of lies. Jennifer's story began to unravel almost immediately. Investigators quickly discovered inconsistencies in her account. They found that Jennifer had made several calls to Daniel and other accomplices in the days leading up to the attack. Surveillance footage from the neighborhood showed a suspicious car parked near the Pan home on the night of the murder. Jennifer's phone records were scrutinized, revealing text messages that contradicted her claims. Slowly, the investigators began to piece together the truth. Jennifer wasn't the helpless victim she had portrayed herself to be. She was the mastermind behind a gruesome plan. But what had driven her to such an extreme measure? And how had she been able to fool everyone for so long? Chapter 7. Arrest and the shock to the community. On November 22, 2010, just 2 weeks after the murder, Jennifer Pan was arrested. The news sent shockwaves through the community. How could the daughter of the Pan family, once seen as a perfect model of success, be capable of such a heinous crime? The media was in a frenzy, with news outlets everywhere trying to piece together the story. Friends, family, and neighbors were left in disbelief, unable to comprehend how Jennifer could have been involved in such a brutal act. The perfect daughter, the talented student, the loving sibling, all of it was a lie. Jennifer's arrest raised disturbing questions about the pressures placed on children by their parents and whether that pressure could push someone to murder. Chapter 8: Trial by Fire, the 10-month courtroom battle. Jennifer's trial began in 2014, and the courtroom became a battleground. The prosecution painted Jennifer as a cold-blooded killer, a young woman who had orchestrated the murder of her parents with chilling precision. Her lies were laid bare for all to see, and the jury was forced to confront the extent of her manipulation. Jennifer's defense team argued that she had been a victim of emotional abuse, claiming that the constant pressure from her parents had driven her to commit the crime. But the prosecution countered with evidence that Jennifer had planned the murder for months, demonstrating her control over every aspect of the attack. The trial captivated the nation, with everyone asking the same question: how could someone so young, so seemingly innocent, commit such a horrifying act? The evidence was overwhelming, and the jury ultimately convicted Jennifer Pan of 2 counts of first-degree murder. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Chapter 9: The Aftermath and Legacy. The case of Jennifer Pan continues to haunt the community and those who knew her. The question of why Jennifer would kill her parents remains unanswered for many, as there was no clear motive other than a twisted desire for freedom. Was it the pressure of her parents' expectations that drove her to kill? Or was it something darker, something deeper within her? Jennifer's story is a stark reminder of the dangers of perfectionism and the psychological toll that high expectations can have on young people. It also raises uncomfortable questions about the nature of family dynamics and how the people we trust the most can sometimes betray us in the most horrific ways. Jennifer Pan's story is one of manipulation, desperation, and a chilling descent into madness. The question remains: could this have been prevented? Could someone have intervened before it was too late? The tragic end to the Pan family's pursuit of perfection leaves us all asking, what happens when the pressure becomes too much to bear? Chapter 10: The Psychological Toll of Perfectionism. As Jennifer's trial progressed, psychological experts weighed in on her mental state. The pressure she faced growing up had been immense, and many psychologists argued that it contributed to her drastic actions. Perfectionism is often lauded as a positive trait, but when it becomes an overwhelming obsession, it can be devastating. For Jennifer, the constant demand for success, the feeling of never measuring up, and the fear of disappointing her parents created a mental and emotional trap from which she couldn't escape. Experts explained how children raised in environments of extreme pressure can experience severe anxiety, depression, and a distorted sense of identity. Jennifer's actions were an extreme response to years of feeling inadequate, as though nothing she did could ever satisfy her parents' expectations. This chapter explores the psychological impact of perfectionism, focusing on the potential dangers of unrealistically high standards in both academic and personal spheres. Jennifer's case is an alarming example of how unchecked pressure can manifest in dangerous ways. Many young people today are facing similar struggles, a pursuit of perfection that leaves no room for mistakes. The fear of failure can become paralyzing, and in Jennifer's case, it pushed her to the edge. Was she truly the villain in this story? Or was she a victim of a toxic environment that shaped her actions? Understanding the complex layers of Jennifer's psyche might shed light on why she took such a horrific path. Chapter 11: Behind the Masks, the real story of the accomplices. Jennifer didn't act alone in her crime. She had a group of accomplices, all of whom played key roles in carrying out the horrific attack on her family. The question on everyone's mind was, what drove these individuals to participate in such a violent crime? Daniel Wong, Jennifer's secret boyfriend, was the most involved, but others were also recruited by Jennifer to carry out the murder. Daniel, who was once a victim of his own troubled past, was deeply entangled in the plan. And though he may not have been the mastermind, his participation was crucial. Along with him were others Jennifer manipulated, people who seemed to have no prior connection to the Pan family, but were convinced by Jennifer's promises and lies. In this chapter, we delve into the background of Jennifer's accomplices, uncovering the reasons behind their involvement. What made them complicit in this dark scheme? Were they simply following Jennifer's lead, or did they have their own motivations? We also examine how Jennifer was able to manipulate them, using her charm and persistence to pull them into her web of lies. The psychology of her accomplices is just as complex as Jennifer's own, and understanding their motives adds another layer to the horror of this case. Chapter 12. The Family's Legacy. The Strain of Cultural Expectations. One of the most heartbreaking aspects of the case was the cultural context in which it unfolded. Jennifer's parents, Han and Beach, were immigrants who had come to Canada in search of a better life for their children. They worked tirelessly to build a future for Jennifer and her brother, Felix. They believed that success in life required hard work, sacrifice, and unyielding discipline. Their values, rooted in their upbringing in Vietnam, left little room for imperfection or failure. Unfortunately, this worldview clashed with Jennifer's own aspirations and needs. Cultural expectations, especially in immigrant families, can be incredibly difficult to navigate. In this chapter, we explore the pressures that Jennifer's parents placed on her, not just as a daughter, but as a symbol of their own success. Han and Beach's desire for perfection led to expectations that became suffocating. Despite Jennifer's accomplishments, it was clear that their vision of success for her was not her own. This clash between cultural values and personal desires set the stage for the tragedy that followed. Jennifer's story is a reflection of the challenges faced by many children of immigrants who often feel torn between honoring their parents' dreams and forging their own paths. Chapter 13. The Impact on the Community, Shattered Trust and Fear. When Jennifer Pan's crime became public, it sent shockwaves through her community. Markham, Ontario, was a quiet suburban town where neighbors trusted one another, and families were known for their close-knit bonds. The idea that a young woman from such a well-respected family could commit such a brutal act shattered the sense of security that the community had always felt. Many who had known Jennifer and her family were left in disbelief, struggling to reconcile the image of the perfect daughter with the cold, calculated criminal who had planned and executed such a brutal act. In this chapter, we take a look at how the crime impacted the wider community. Neighbors who had once seen Jennifer as an ideal student, a star athlete, and a model daughter began to question everything they thought they knew about the Pan family. The shock was compounded by the betrayal of trust, as many felt they had been deceived for years. As the investigation unfolded, Markham residents were forced to confront the possibility that anyone, no matter how seemingly perfect, could harbor such dark secrets. This chapter explores the aftermath of the crime, how the community came to terms with the horrifying reality, and the lasting impact it had on the people who were closest to Jennifer. Chapter 14. The Long Road to Redemption, Jennifer's Life Behind Bars. While Jennifer Pan's trial and conviction were the public culmination of her crime, her journey after sentencing was just beginning. In this chapter, we follow Jennifer's life behind bars, exploring how she has been forced to reckon with the reality of her actions. Serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole, Jennifer now spends her days in a maximum security prison, far removed from the life she once imagined for herself. But her path to redemption is far from simple. In prison, Jennifer has had time to reflect on the choices she made, the lies she told, and the devastating consequences of her actions. However, the road to redemption is often long and difficult, and Jennifer's journey is no exception. As we explore Jennifer's time in prison, we also hear from experts about the possibility of rehabilitation for someone like Jennifer. Is she capable of change, or is her crime so heinous that there can be no true redemption? This chapter examines the psychological and emotional toll of imprisonment, especially for someone like Jennifer, who once had everything but lost it all in the most tragic way imaginable. The case of Jennifer Pan is a tragic reminder of the toll that unrelenting pressure can have on a young person's psyche. While the Pan family's story ended in horror, it serves as a wake-up call for all of us. As we reflect on Jennifer's life, the lies, and the violent actions that tore her family apart, we are left with the question: what happens when the pursuit of perfection becomes too much to bear? Jennifer Pan's story is a sobering reflection on the dangers of unrealistic expectations and the consequences that can unfold when those expectations go unmet. Thank you for watching. If you found this story fascinating and want to learn more about other true crime cases, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, stay vigilant and keep questioning the narratives that shape our world.